My name is Ken Tirado, and this is my wife, Elise Walker, and we actually have been married for 29 years this October. This story actually begins about 22 years ago when a friend of mine and one of my closest friends just had an aortic aneurysm and suddenly, unexpectedly, just died. And it caused many of us to start to think about, you know, our families and life insurance and mortality and all those issues. So I know I applied for a life insurance policy, and they kind of flunked me. The urine test, the underwriters thought I was dumping too much protein in my urine, and they wouldn't insure me for a life insurance. This happened a few times, so I decided to check it out and figure what's going on. What is the issue? The doctor sent me for a kidney biopsy, in which they determined that there was something wrong with my kidney, but they didn't know what it was, and it wasn't really affecting my kidney functioning. A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, suddenly my kidney function started to sink, and it went from fairly normal to being told that I was in 4th stage kidney failure, like that. And right away the doctors, you know, I was stunned, and the doctors are right away talking about dialysis and trying to make appointments for me to get surgery on my arm so that they can give me hemodialysis 3 times a week, and it was a little crazy. If you do dialysis, it's just going to be a temporary bridge until your transplant happens. So I was put on the transplant list, which I also was told can take an average of 7 years. The best transplant is to get one from a living donor. So immediately Elise and the children said, well, they want to be tested, they want to be tested.
And so basically I brought my daughter to be screened, and I was still on the fence. And then when I learned about all of the things that she would face, I said, why don't you test me as well? And because I really didn't want her to go through it after I learned all about the procedures and, you know, some of the risk factors. I was tested, Sam was tested, and it turned out I was a match. But at that point I knew that there was no way Sam was going to go through with this. That Sam was really adamant about getting screened, and she actually gave me the courage to get screened, and that's how we got to the next step. To my surprise, it turns out that I am O positive, which is the universal donor, and Ken is A positive.
A positive.
And that we were a match. And so, you know, I was able to, you know, help him.
At this point, I'm still feeling pretty normal. I'm starting to experience some symptoms that I didn't even know were symptoms of kidney disease, such as, you know, my legs started to itch. I started to get a lot of nighttime itching. I just thought that was dried skin. I had no idea that was a symptom of renal failure. I lost a lot of my tastes. I started to have a metallic taste in my mouth, and I was having trouble breathing. I was just really starting to feel very, very woozy a lot. I was falling asleep at work at my desk all the time. This
was prior to dialysis.
Well, yeah, this was prior to dialysis, because they said, I would say, well, when do I know I have to go into dialysis? And they said, oh, you'll know. And, you know, and it was such a vague, frustrating answer, but they said, you'll know when you need dialysis. And at one point, it was around Easter last year.
It was Bad Friday.
It was Bad Friday. We would call it Bad Friday. I was in such bad shape that I just went to the hospital and went to Mount Sinai. I spoke to the doctor, and he pretty much said, well, if you are comfortable going to Staten Island, check into the emergency room. And we did that, and they did an emergency dialysis on me, and
also diagnosed you with pneumonia.
Yeah, I had pneumonia, fluid, a buildup of fluid in my lungs from the renal failure. So I had pneumonia, and they gave me emergency dialysis, And then I started to go to Richmond Kidney Center for dialysis 3 times a week. I did it for about 5, 6 months until November 22nd, which was when we arranged to have the transplant. And Elise and I went up to Mount Sinai and
with the kids.
With the kids. We spent Thanksgiving in Mount Sinai Hospital. So I spent Easter in St. Vincent's Hospital, Rumsey, and I spent Thanksgiving in Mount Sinai and enjoying that hospital food for both days. If I was very lucky, I have a manager at the restaurant at Killmeyer's. I have Vanessa, who's my manager, has been with me for like 20 years, and she really stepped up to the plate. It's funny because right away the rumor mill started to say, oh, Killmeyer's going to be sold, the owner's sick. And I was like, well, no. I mean, we had such a support system that...
no, we were really blessed.
And now I'm back at work, and Elise is back at work, and everything's sort of like back to normal. I was dying. I mean, you know, I know I didn't talk about it that way last year, but I could feel my body deteriorating. I mean, if it wasn't for modern science, medical technology, or whatever, I would have died.